trade season. Rumors are swirling, and Pelicans guard C.J. McCollum took some time to respond to give his thoughts on the idea of leaving New Orleans. I'm Trevor Lane. This is the Basketball Bulletin. Make sure you subscribe to our fast-growing channel. We appreciate all the support we've been getting here on the channel. Make sure you do hit that subscribe button if you're not a subscriber yet. Joining me, Donnie Freeman. Donnie, the Pelicans are very much a team that's going to be active on the trade market. Their season is over. They are not making the playoffs. They're dead last in the Western Conference. Injuries have completely upended them. And now they're expected to be a major player on the market here. We hear a lot about Brandon Ingram. We hear a lot about Zion Williamson, about DeJounte Murray, some of these other guys. But C.J. McCollum stands out as a player they should definitely move. What do you think about the current precarious position that the Pels find themselves in?
Yeah, we talked a lot about them, especially earlier in the season when it was like, man, they are starting to really slide. Is it time to maybe make a decision here? And throughout all of that, just became more and more clear that as they kept losing, they might as well just call the season a wash and, restructure the roster. And I think that, he is an interesting player due to the salary number, due to the way he could be useful to other teams. And maybe they can get a return for him if possible that can help them in their I don't want to say rebuild because they haven't really made that decision yet, because I think that comes with trading Zion potentially. But he could help them restructure the roster going forward. So that's just pretty interesting that he's out there now, or talking about being out there, I guess.
Restructure is certainly the word to use here. That's what they would be looking to do. Still have some good pieces, but you could see just 6 wins on the season. They actually won their last game, but just 6 wins on the season. They're out. They can't make up enough ground in the Western Conference to make the play-in anymore. So this is a team that very much should look to pivot towards the future. Now, C.J. McCollum, a veteran, was asked about this. He was asked about, hey, your name's been popping up in trade rumors. He said, I've been here. This is year 12, right? I've been in trade rumors since my 3rd year in the league. Remember all the Dame and CJ don't work stuff in Portland? After my 3rd year, Bill Simmons had me getting traded every week somewhere. So I understand what comes with that. For me, I play the game the right way. I do things the right way, and I play hard. Obviously, this team values me, and I'm sure there are some other teams that value me as well. Obviously, I like the city. My wife likes the city. Kids are happy here. I came here for a reason, but at the same time, some things aren't in your control. You just play the game and do what you do and hope for the best. I'm going to do my job and I'm going to prepare. My value is going to be exactly where it needs to be, if you know what that means.
What does that mean?
CJ is expecting there's going to be some stuff coming up here for him.
Yeah. What do you think that means, if you know what that means? What do you think he's trying to say there?
I think he's saying that there's going to be he's done everything he needs to do on his part, that teams around the NBA are going to want him. I think that's what he's saying, that my value is going to be exactly where it needs to be in order for him to be moved by the Pels. And I do think they're going to do everything they can to try to move him. We're going to look at landing spots for him as well as the salary cap math behind it in just a moment. But first, let's give a quick shout out to our sponsor, and that is Prize Picks. Prize Picks, phenomenal way to enjoy the game. Just a lot of fun. Use our promo code Bulletin, and you get a $50 guarantee on just $5 of play. Let's go through and make some quick picks here. You guys can use the link in the description down below to play over on Prize Picks. Donnie, let's take a look at some of these. I see LeBron against Houston. What I'm drawn to is Austin Reeves, 12 boards plus assists against Houston. Yeah. I think he crushes that.
Yeah, I think that's an easy one. I also think the LeBron one is easy too. He's up against Dylan Brooks today. He likes to stick it to him if possible. I think that's easy. And he's also been on a crazy tear lately too. So
let's go with all-star vote getter LaMelo Ball, 11.5 rebounds and assists. Now it is against Cleveland, a really good team, maybe a blowout possible, but I still like him to beat that.
Yeah, I feel like it's not doing him justice if we're going to pick Reeves and not pick Melo.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, I like those 3. I usually like to go with 3 pick plays. But again, everybody, go check out Prize Picks. If you agree with us, you would disagree with our picks, use the link in the description down below. We always appreciate it when you support the companies that help support us. And again, use that promo code Bulletin, and you get a guaranteed $50 on your first $5 play. So go check out Prize Picks right now. All right. Let's get into C.J. McCollum. How can the Pels move on from him? And I think they should. 33 years old. It's time to move on from C.J. McCollum. 33 years old, making $33 million. Next season makes $30.6 million. The future salary could be a bit of a concern. because
Yeah.
I think right now teams are very allergic to future salary under the new CBA. So, Donnie, I think that it would require a team feeling like CJ can be an important piece to put them over the top. What do you think CJ has left at this point? And do you like his contract right now?
I don't know if I like the contract, but I also don't like hate it either. It's such a weird
Yeah.
contract because it's going down a good bit next year. Roughly 3 million next year. He is going to be what 34, 35 depending when his birthday is next year, and that's something I'd be concerned about. But if you look at what he's doing so far this year, while he's dealt with some injury issues, he's played in 22 of their available games this year and he's put up basically 23, what is it? 23 4-4.
That's great.
He's shooting, 37% on 8.5 attempts. Last year he shot 43% on 8.5 attempts, by the way. But
From
like
three, yeah.
I think CJ has still got plenty in the tank. His just shooting is down this year. I mean, look at his free throws too, down a whole 10%. Like it's just weird. But I think he's still got plenty in the tank. I don't know that I hate that contract. I think if you apply like old logic to it, you could say it's a bit of an overpay. I don't know that I hate it though, because if he's going to be on like your third star on a team and you're going to invest in that, then I think that depending on what team it is anyway, that could be a good number for him because it's not like it's 45, it's not like
Exactly.
like that makes a really big difference.
Like it's easier definitely to trade for CJ McCollum than say Zach LaVine. And LaVine's the better player, don't get me wrong, but much easier to make a deal for CJ McCollum, both in terms of the length of the contract and the amount of money there. I think he could be a really solid piece for a team. Now, defensively, obviously, there's going to be some deficiencies there, but the dude could still score the ball. I mean, 23 points per game. And I would have to imagine, Donnie, he gets to a better team. Now, the free throw percentage might be a concern, but he gets to a better team. The quality of those looks is going to go up. And I bet that he would, because right now the Pels are missing everybody. So if the quality of looks goes up, I bet his 3-point percentage probably improves. So what's a landing spot? Like what's a team that could see themselves as a CJ McCollum away from making a run? Who are some teams that could potentially use him?
A team that needs some perimeter scoring that's kind of, not really having that too much, because I think that's going to be the main thing that he's providing to you. I don't know of anybody off the top of my head. I'm going to look at the standings here just briefly because you love putting me on the spot. But
I do.
But what do you think about a team like Denver? They have been really good with Russ in the starting group. I think we actually debated on talking about that in a video, by the way, Russ fans. I hope you love this. But we debated talking about, I think they're like, what, 8-3 or 10-3 with Russ in the starting group. He's been very good for them. The question with that is like, is he going to continue doing that when they're fully available again? But I think they have been in on, there was reports about them being in on LaVine previously. I think any team that potentially could have been in on LaVine at any point or maybe interested could also be looking for some of the same things in CJ McCollum. So what do you think about a team like that?
Yeah, I think the challenge is they'd have to give up Michael Porter Jr. to because his salary is so high in order to make it work. I think it's a little bit easier to give up Michael Porter Jr. if you're getting even a 29-year-old Zach LaVine back versus a 33-year-old CJ McCollum. But I agree with, like, yes, Denver's a team that could use him for sure. They could definitely use a player like him that could score the basketball. I also look at the Clippers as a team that could potentially improve. But I'll tell you the other team, it's the team that our Lakers play today, the Houston Rockets. They're one of the worst teams in the NBA when it comes to field goal percentage as well as 3-point percentage. They do struggle a bit on the offensive end. They're great offensive rebounding wise, and so that's allowed them to mitigate some of their scoring issues. But he could be. We talk a lot about, well, could they go get Jimmy Butler? And I know Houston has talked about we're not going to sacrifice our young core, but I do look at a team like Houston as a team that would benefit greatly by having a veteran like CJ that can come in and score the ball. Now, stacking up salaries to get him, that gets to be a bit tricky. They're not going to want to part with Fred VanVleet, Dylan Brooks. I mean, you could build something off of Steven Adams, I suppose, but even then, it gets tough. Steven Adams, Jeff Green, Jock Landale, even then, maybe you'd be in the ballpark then. So Houston would actually be, I think, a really interesting landing spot for CJ McCollum, just in terms of veteran leadership on the team, giving them the shooting and the scoring that they could certainly use, and just a more efficient scoring guard, particularly with Jalen Green and the sometimes impressive chaos that he brings to the game. I think CJ could be a bit more of a steadying presence for them. So I look at Houston and think they would be a really interesting team for for CJ. And I don't think he would cost nearly as much as them trying to go get like a Jimmy Butler or someone like that.
Yeah. What do you think about Detroit? Do you think they can consolidate some of their veteran guys like Hardaway or Beasley or Tobias Harris and maybe turn those into CJ? I think that could be a good fit for them.
Yeah, I think it. Do the Pelicans want Tobias? But you could certainly build something off of him, and especially now that they've lost Jaden Ivey to a broken leg, they could use help in their backcourt. I see that you've got the expiring salary of Tim Hardaway Jr. Could you build off of that? What about would you do Tim Hardaway Jr. and Isaiah Stewart, who's a young, big $15 million contract? You stack up some salary there. That said, the Pistons, they're under the cap. They don't even have to worry about matching salaries. They could make. They definitely have flexibility there. So that's actually a pretty good call because you look at Detroit. They've been in a rebuild for years. It feels like they've started and restarted their rebuild a number of times here. But right now, they're the 9 seed in the East. Yes, they just lost Jaden Ivey, but I don't think they want to bottom out here. I think they want to get Cade Cunningham, who is fantastic. They just beat the Wolves last night. I think they want to get Cade Cunningham playoff experience as well as the rest of their guys. And you can do something with Detroit moving up, particularly if you're the Pistons. Who's catching you right now in the East? Like the 76ers want to win, but who else behind you really wants to win games right now? So I think the path is clear for the Pistons to make at the very least a play-in run. And so I think that's a really good call, Donnie, that McCollum would make sense, especially with the flexibility that they've got salary-wise, because they've got so much room to spend more money.
Let's go. See, that's what happens when I have time to prepare. No. What about another popular name on the market? And that will be Golden State. Do you think he would fit there as an option for them? I think he could fit. It's just more or less, I'm not sure about the salary situation.
I mean, he certainly fits their shooting. And what if you were to stack up something? And again, the Pelicans would want something in return, obviously. But what if you were to stack up some salaries like, I don't know, what if we said Buddy Hield and Dennis Schroeder and you go get CJ McCollum? Would that be an upgrade? I mean, Dennis Schroeder, obviously, they just went and traded for him, but they can re-aggregate him in a trade. You could do it without moving Andrew Wiggins, which has been part of the concern for Golden, or at least reportedly, and getting in on a Jimmy Butler trade has been that they don't know if they get better by moving Andrew Wiggins. So you could stack Dennis Schroeder. I mean, Buddy Hield's only at $8 million, so you'd really have to do Schroeder, Hield, and then Kevon Looney as an expiring to kind of get there. There, you've got Gary Payton II. They've got multiple players they could stack up to try to make it happen. And then if you want to talk draft capital, I think they've got enough picks to make. So that's a pretty good call as well. And I do think he'd be the better fit in Golden State than Schroeder is, and would be a significant upgrade just in terms of firepower on that team. So I like that one as well. It's funny, Donnie, when we started this, I thought, gosh, are there that many teams that are going to be in on CJ McCollum? But the more we go through this, the more teams I could see talking themselves into making a run at him.
Yeah, I just was going up and down the standings, and both of these teams kind of stood out to me because they're kind of in that 500 area, play-in area, and especially for the Warriors, obviously they have a sped up timeline here with their stars aging and things like that, and they obviously want to try to make a push. They've been very vocal about going after a lot of players, from Lowry to PG to Jimmy. Like, they've been all over this season, and I think that they probably would be in on something like this potentially, but I didn't really see the need for him, though, if I'm being honest. For most of the teams that are in the top 4 or 5, I think they're mostly already set, or they would have a hard time kind of matching that salary. But that's just based on the conference. It didn't really matter all that much, but every other team kind of below that, I can make an argument for, aside from the young rebuilding teams like the Wizards. I think he could fit there pretty well.
Yeah. I think that it's going to be an interesting market for CJ. I think there's going to be opportunities for the Pelicans. Now, we've heard they don't want to move off of Zion Williamson. I think they should seriously explore it. That said, they should also be putting out there that they don't want to trade him just in case they don't find something there. But Brandon Ingram, very available on the market. I think he probably moves before the deadline. DeJounte Murray, they paid so much for him just back in June. Can they really flip him right now for what his market value is? That would probably hurt. That would be a tough pill to swallow. But Brandon Ingram certainly on the market. And then CJ McCollum, I think it makes a lot of sense at 33 years old. Move him now. Turn the page, look to the future, and see what you can build around this young core now. that the Pelicans have. So makes a lot of sense for CJ McCollum to be a guy on the move, and he is still playing at a high enough level to where he can really be a difference maker and change, I think, the fortunes of a club.
Yeah, I agree with you. Now, with this team having both him and BI, the last thing I wanted to ask you is, if you're presented with the opportunity to trade for one of these guys, who would you target? You've got the better, flexibility with the expiring deal and the younger player in Ingram. But you may have more of a sure thing with what CJ can provide you and not needing to change up your team all so much in the way that Brandon may, influence that. What would you do if you were a GM?
And you'd have to be willing to pay Brandon Ingram on his next contract, which has been
he
a
wants
challenge
50
for a lot of
million.
teams. Yeah,
So
that's tough. I'm not a huge fan of CJ's. I think it's okay. I don't think it's great, but man, I'll tell you, I think it's so close that it would just come down to, do I need a guard or do I need a wing? I do think Brandon Ingram's the better player, no question.
Yeah.
But if you're a team that is dead set, no, we are not doing a 3-star build, we are not going to give Brandon Ingram superstar money, then go with CJ and have the future flexibility that comes with it. That, I think that's the way I would look at it. If you're a team, though, that thinks Brandon Ingram could be our second best player on a really good team, which I don't agree with that, but some teams might, then go with BI by all means. I think he's the better player between the two. I don't think it's all that close particularly, but if you want future flexibility and you don't have to have a long-term commitment here, you want more of a short burst guy that can come in, just be professional, do what he needs to do and help your team. I like CJ McCollum a lot. So it really depends on what team we're talking about, I think. I know that's kind of a cop-out answer, but still.
No, it's fair. Yeah, I kind of presented that with that being an option too. So just wanted to know. But anyway, if you guys are interested in knowing more about some of the recent trade coverage, apparently the Memphis Grizzlies are in hot pursuit of Jimmy Butler. And you guys can find the video that we did on that on the screen right now. And we'll see you over there.